Hey guys, my name is James Lewis. I am a senior at Cambridge High School for one more day. I graduate tomorrow, so that's gone by pretty fast, and my future's coming up like really quickly too. I leave like a couple short months, and I'm going to Spain for a study abroad program through Florida State. So that should be a great time. So with that being said, high school has been a pretty crazy season of life. Anybody relate to that just a little bit? But before we get into that and all the ups and downs of that, I would love for you to get to know me a little bit better. So I'm going to kind of talk about myself. My name is James Keith Lewis. I was born and raised here in Alpharetta, Georgia. I have two older sisters, Olivia and Danielle, and I have two incredible parents who are actually sitting right back there. My mom's on the left and my dad's on the right. He looks shorter, like a lot shorter than me. There's like a slant. It's okay. He's probably upset about it, but it's fine. He won the arm wrestle. Besides the point, but something that you need to know about me is that I love to travel and I love Lord of the Rings, okay? So you might be thinking, James, I love Lord of the Rings too, but I promise you, comparing your love for Lord of the Rings to my love for Lord of the Rings is like saying Moe's and Chipotle are the same quality. There's no comparison. It doesn't add up. Your love for Lord of the Rings is like Moe's. It's inferior to mine. Like I am a Lord of the Rings nerd. Like if I could have been named Boromir or Legolas Lewis, it would have been incredible. It would happen in a heartbeat. So mom and dad, you messed up. I won't make that same mistake with my kid, but it's fine. His name will be Boromir. It'll be great. But the fact that you don't even know who those names are kind of proves my point even more that I love Lord of the Rings even more. So anyways, sorry. Off my rant of my love for Lord of the Rings, we actually got this pretty cool opportunity, me and my family. We went to New Zealand and we saw all the places that they filmed everything. And so we actually had to go on a helicopter ride and they flew us up to this great, amazing place and it was like beyond incredible. And they actually flew us to this one more spot and this is like, I took these pictures just bragging a little bit. Like this is ridiculous. They flew us on top of a mountain and there was this gorgeous lake on top of the mountain and a waterfall that was pouring out. And guys, like this is one of the biggest reasons that I love to travel. When I get moments like these and it just literally takes my breath away. And it just completely points to a creator who's so much bigger that can make these like crazy, beautiful things. Like it was an incredible trip. But yeah, I also love to hike. I love snowboarding, other than the accent, mom and dad. Love snowboarding. I love going to the lake, and I love all different kinds of music. So my favorite band, it isn't some like normal, typical white girl artist like Taylor Swift, Sean. But my favorite band right now is kind of weird. It's actually Rainbow Kitten Surprise. I was not expecting that much yes. So yeah, woo. Yeah, great stuff. But yeah, I love to serve. I'm really involved here at Stone Creek Church. I've been here for like 2 or 3 years. I've been interning here for 2 years. But I love Guatemala and missions, and I love Jesus. But what I need you to know is that my life hasn't always been centered around a church. Probably until up about 3.5 years ago, my life looked completely different. So like you might be thinking, you may look at me today and see someone who's running towards Jesus, but honestly, most of my life, I've kind of just been running the opposite direction. So before I dive like straight into my story and my life before Jesus, I kind of want to preface my message with this. You like hear everybody's story and you're like, oh yeah, you have life for Jesus and like you got this crazy amount of darkness and it was crazy, went to this really low point and then you met Jesus and then it was amazing and a lot of light. My story is a little bit different than that. So I've experienced a lot of ups and downs in my relationship with Jesus. So we're going to hit like the beginning part a little bit of me not knowing Jesus and we'll talk about that. But what I really want to talk to you guys about is my experience with Jesus for the past 3.5 years. And just kind of, if I'm being honest, hasn't been easy. It's honestly been really hard. But through all of that, I know that it is so worth it that there is nothing else other than Jesus that can offer that fulfillment and that relationship that he can. So into my life for Jesus, the dreaded middle school years. Yeah. So going into 6th grade, so I think this is probably about the time where I started to think, oh yeah, girls aren't gross. So I quickly got into a relationship, and that started like a really long cycle of different relationships. And I really didn't have very many guy friends in middle school. It was mostly just me having girlfriends and then getting with girls. I was kind of a jerk. But so going into 7th grade, whew, this was tough. So 7th grade started, and I was introduced to porn. And I quickly grew an addiction to that, and something I'm still battling up until today. I have to keep boundaries and different guardrails in my life so I don't fall back into that. And then I was with, I had a good friend. We would hang out a lot, and just like normal best friends would do, we would play video games together. We would watch TV, watch movies, stuff like that, hang out, whatnot. But this time was kind of different. That night, he decided to sexually assault me while I was sleeping. And this really messed me up. I didn't feel like I have anyone. I didn't feel like I had anything to turn to or anything to fall on. It just left me really, really confused. I was so ashamed that this happened, so there was no way I could tell anybody about it. The whole time, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what is happening? So I locked it up, and I never spoke about it to anyone. And any time, like, the thought of, gosh, who are you, James, ever came up, I wouldn't know. So I did the one thing I knew how to do, and I just kind of kept getting with girls. And so any time, like, trying to define myself, I put my identity in that, and I put all my worth and every part of me into who that was. So 8th grade approached, and the only thing I knew was getting with girls. So that just kind of kept happening. And this really began to control who I was. It controlled who I was, how I thought, and it kind of continued into my freshman year. And honestly, like, I wish I could say, like, freshman year started, and it was great, and I immediately started to follow Jesus, and everything turned perfect, but not my story. As freshman year started, I kind of started to get into, like, these different things and different experiences, and I started trying things around with weed, and I started going into, like, more social media things and talking to more girls on Snapchat, and it just really started spiraling further and further down and further worse. But one of my friends, he invited me to go to church with him, and I started going, like, every Sunday night, and I quickly realized that a lot of the girls that I was already talking to were at this place. So, like, the messages really didn't make too much sense to me. I didn't really understand, like, the implications it had with a relationship with Jesus and what that meant. But the music was good, and I had some good guy friends there, and there were some good-looking girls that I got to talk to. So I kept going, and I started going every week. But about 2 months into the school year, one of my friends, he was moving out, and I threw a party for him. And at the party, nothing really happened, but after about 15 guys stayed back, and we all had made the decision that we were going to smoke weed. And then after the next day, I was saying things like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to smoke weed before I go to church, like, woo, like, so awesome. But yeah, that was a weird moment. But that day went on, and it was probably about 12 o'clock at night, and my mom texted me. She goes, hey, James, can you come downstairs? I need to talk to you. Like, it's a really normal thing. My mom's a night owl. Like, she literally stays up later than I do, and I'm up until, like, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm sorry, I just got to pause for a second. I was literally up, like, the other night at 1, and she was in the bathroom drilling, like, a metal thing onto a cabinet. Who does that? That's so weird. But, so, besides that, it's very common for her to be up that late, and so does I. So she calmed me down. We talked for, like, 15 minutes. But then she asked me the question, James, did you do drugs with your friends? And I'm like, no, of course not. Why would I ever do that? And then she asked me, James, do you swear on your life that you did not do drugs with your friends? I'm like, Mom, of course, I didn't do any drugs. James, you swear on my life? Mom, I did no drugs. Like, stop. Like, of course I didn't. James, you swear on our family's life? Mom, of course, no drugs, nothing. James, do you swear on JoJo's life? She was like my daughter. She's great. And I paused. And I swallowed. And I was like, smoked weed with my friends, Mom. And so told her that, but she just immediately, she started bawling. She was so disappointed, and this is what will always ring in my head. James, you can tell my father why I'm going to prison for your stupid mistakes when I've chosen to do no drugs in my whole life. Because it was all minors that were at our house. She was the liable guardian for the house, so she would be held accountable for it if police were to ever get involved. And I'm just thinking to myself, my grandpa is a strong Catholic man, and he was the president of sales for IBM for quite a while. And long story short, I cannot imagine walking up to my grandpa and saying, hey, I'm the reason that your daughter's in prison right now. So that hit me really hard, and I went up to my room, and she followed me. And as I was getting ready for bed, I was getting under the covers. She lifted up the covers with her tear-filled eyes. She said, scoot over. And I was so confused. I didn't know what was happening. And I said, no, there's no way you're sleeping in my room right now. So she went outside my room, right outside my door, rolled a sleeping bag out, and she slept outside my room because she didn't want me to do any stupid thing or something irrational because of the situation, all because she loves me that much. So that was going on, and she was crazy disappointed and everything and really upset. And it just felt like my dad, it was like he couldn't even look at me. He was just so disappointed in me. And my sisters did what any normal siblings would do. They were calling me druggie, pothead, making fun of me. Like if they did it, I'd probably do it too, so I can't really blame them. But the whole week, it was really tough. I was like 14, 15, just a really difficult week. And that next weekend, I decided to do something different. I actually went on a church retreat with Vertical Reality church retreat with Inside Out. Sorry, my bad. Church retreat with Inside Out called Vertical Reality. And when I went into it, I was just kind of closed off. Like I'd be hanging out with everybody, having a good time and everything. But I couldn't hold it any longer. So on a Saturday night at the late night session on September 27th, I said to Jesus, I don't really know who you are. I don't even know if I believe in you, but I know that good things come when people follow you, and I don't want to see my family disappointed like this again. So on that night, I gave my life to Jesus, and then 6 months later, I publicly told everybody that, hey, my life is fully for Jesus, and I got baptized here at Stone Creek. And thank you. I appreciate it. But so after all that, and since following Jesus, I have 100% realized through my relationship that there is no drug, no party, no girl, no amount of popularity that can ever amount to the fulfillment that comes with a relationship with Jesus. It has been truly incredible. Jesus has given me a purpose and a meaning in my life that's so worth living. He has given me a love that will never fail and a grace that will constantly chase me down. Jesus is the only one who can provide that. And after I got baptized, I decided to get deeper and dive deeper into my relationship with Jesus. So, as you know, I've been at Stone Creek basically ever since I became a Christian, and I've been serving here for the past 3 years. It's been a ton of time. So, one of the guys that's always kind of been here with me since I started following Jesus is Sean Curry. So, he was my first small group leader kind of thing at this thing called Ignite. And so after that, I became an intern here at Stone Creek while he was a protege on staff. So I'm not even kidding when I say this. I think I've gotten lunch with Sean at least 200 to 300 times in the past 2 years. I'm not even exaggerating. Our schedules are so in sync with each other that we literally poop at the same time. After every lunch, we go in those stalls right over there. We sit in the second and third stall, and we talk. And just to be vulnerable with you guys, because I think that's what needs to happen. Ooh, this is a tough one. We would sit in there and we would sing Moana at the top of our lungs. I've been staring at the... Sorry, wrong time, my bad, sorry. But literally, like Sean, we've done everything. So Sean, when I go to Spain, like, dude, I'm gonna miss our bathroom lunch dates. Those have been incredible. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for being my brother for the past 3 years. I really don't know what I could do without you, so thank you. But at Stone Creek, there's been a lot of good memories. So one of the first memories that I can really think of is, you guys remember Joey McLaughlin, dude with the fro hawk? Like all the older people know who he is, obviously. Yeah, so we would have these things called teaching times, okay? And just to paint a little picture for you, teaching times would be him talking extremely fast about every single thing he knows, and then it's me sweating and struggling to write every single thing down. And it was terrifying. It was so difficult. And then Sean and I would have these conversations, like we'd have all these deep theological conversations about the Bible all the time. But honestly, like working here and like being an intern here for the past 2 years, it's been really challenging. Like just being with this group of people. Like Sean has literally read the Bible twice in the past 180 days. And he's reading it for a third time right now in the next 90. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. And then Joey, he literally knows the Bible like the back of his hand. And then you have all these people who know who they are in Jesus, like totally confirmed. And then like it's just been like crazy challenging. And like it's challenged me to like figure out who I am in Jesus. Like figuring out my own rhythms and my own personal relationship so I can have something to offer too. So something else that happened after, so in June 2016, I did this thing called the Intern Abroad Program in Guatemala. One of the best years of my life. It was great. Anybody here ever been to Guatemala? That is so weak. Come on, please. Who's been to Guatemala? Yes. Thank you. That's so much better. Gosh, just do it the first time. But Guatemala is incredible. So I've been there a total of three separate times, for a total of 7 weeks. And that has been beyond amazing. Like the amount that God has shown me there about who he is, and like honestly who he is as my father has been incredible, and it's been mostly from Guatemala. So the first time I ever went to Guatemala, I was like 16 years old, and at this time I really didn't know very much Spanish. So I went there, and so I started working with this guy. His name's Santos, okay? Santos is a big guy, okay? That's just to say the least. And me not knowing any Spanish, me being 16 and puny, and looking at him, this big guy, like seen the Avengers? Yes, everybody. Infinity War. Think Thanos, but loves Jesus, okay? Thanos, but loves Jesus. This is Santos, really big guy. Okay, so when I'm intimidated by somebody or something, I'm going to do the best thing I know how to do, and that's avoid him at all costs. Like, I'm not going to get anywhere near him. Like, literally for the first 2 weeks that I was there, I said nothing to him. I saw him every day. I saw him at breakfast, lunch, everywhere. I saw him, and I said nothing. 2 weeks. It's kind of awkward, kind of weird. But then Jose, the whole leader of the ministry, was like, hey, James and Santos, I want you guys to go work on what is now called the intern house and do all the electrical up there. So, great. And I'm thinking in my head, oh yeah, this is going to be great. Like, I'm finally going to get to start this great, amazing relationship with him. It's going to be amazing. But then, like, the other 9/10 of my brain is thinking, he could snap you in half with his pinky. Like, that was a terrifying thought. But I'm so happy that we got to do it because through the electrical and, like, doing all it together, there's been a bond that has been made with him and his family that has gone till today, and it has been beyond incredible. So just to talk about Santos a little bit. So Santos and his family live on the property. So he has a wife, her name is Gladys, call her Senora Gladys, because he also has 3 daughters, Gladys, Daniela, and Naomi, and he has 2 sons, Marcos and Angel. And Marcos and Angel, they're literally like, no joke, they're like my brothers. And so whenever we're down there, like we talk all the time, and like it's not just like these service level conversations. It's like these deep, like really serious conversations that we have. And I kind of have the same relationship with their sister Gladys. I kind of take that protective brother side of things So like I'm always there, like if she needs to confide in me for anything or anything like that, I'm always going to be that person who's there for her. And this is probably like my favorite thing to do in Guatemala. And you're going to think it's weird, but it's amazing. I love working in the kitchen with Senora Gladys. That's probably my favorite thing to do. Like, she is the most joy-giving, funny woman I have ever met in my life. Like, whenever we're in there, we'll be cracking jokes the whole time, and then we'll have moments where we're having these, like, crazy, deep conversations about our life. And it has been beyond amazing, just the impact that she's had on my life and this whole family. Like, I can't tell you how much that I admire all of them. So, honestly, like, I've become a part of their family, and they've become a part of mine. So this last time I went, which is like a couple months ago in April, raise your hand if you went to the April trip. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. So this last time I went, I didn't have much time to talk to Marcos and Angel. So on the last day, we had decided that we were going to wake up at 4 in the morning so we could talk to each other and hang out on Saturday morning before we left because they had school at 6 o'clock. So we got up, we were there, and we talked. Gosh, that was a long day. That was early. We got up in the morning, we were talking, and then Santos comes out around like 5:15. And he's like, hey, James, like I would love if me and my family could come out here and pray for you. So he came back out around like 5:30, and him and his whole family, raise your hand if you're a girl in here, can you really 100% imagine getting up at 5:15 in the morning to go pray for somebody? Okay, you guys are amazing. I'm sorry, I didn't know who I was speaking to. But, so all of them come out. It's 5:15 in the morning, and this whole family comes out to pray for me. So we kind of like huddle up like this, and it's like arms and everybody, the Christian way. And they just start praying for me. And Santos is like saying like, thank you so much for all the hard work that you do here and how much you serve. And it was amazing. So after, I got to pray for their whole family. So when I started praying, same way, all this is in Spanish too, but I started praying for them, and when I started praying for them, I thanked God for each of them individually. And the only thing that I could hear were their sniffles. They had all immediately started crying as I was praying for them. So after all the prayer was happening, I was hugging each of them goodbye. And the last one I hugged was Senora Gladys. And she comes over, and we're hugging, and her head's tucked in my chest, and my head's over her, and I'm like bawling. And she's just saying all these things like, thank you so much for being here, being so nice to my children, and being always here for them, and thanking me for the way that I serve there. And as we pulled away, I look into her tear-filled eyes, and she just says, James, like, I fully believe I no longer have 6 kids. I have 7. Like, the amount that Jesus has done for me in Guatemala, the amount of love that he has shown me through just his short 7 weeks in Guatemala has been beyond amazing. Like, I really can't put it into words, and I truly have a family in Guatemala. And the reason I tell you all this is because this family, the way that Jesus has used them, he's shown me more about how he can put hope into the darkest situations than ever before. The way that I have been able to become part of this family has confirmed my calling on my heart that God has given me, that I want to be overseas and be long-term on mission with people and serve that way. Like, I cannot tell you how excited I am for the future that God has in store for me just because of a moment like this. You might think it's like the simplest thing, but the amount that went into her just saying that. So as we were driving out, so we were pulling out of the gate on the bus, and Santos came out, and he ran out, and he had this thing in his hand. And he runs up to the end of the bus. We're literally driving away. Like, imagine if we got away. Would have been terrible. He, like, reaches up, and he hands me this poster. And I take the poster, and it's a family portrait with me included in it. And like, I can't explain that. I can't explain the way that feels, and that's solely from Jesus. And one thing, like, honestly, that I really loved about Jesus is just how constant he is in my life. through his Holy Spirit, he's always fighting for me, and he's always there for me through everything. Because of this, one of my favorite ways to serve Jesus is by serving others. Like, I love serving people through relationships. Like, I'm always going to be that person, regardless of what time it is, or regardless of what the topic is, to be an ear to listen, or to be a person to lean on. And honestly, I wanted to bring this in, so I've worked at a place called Oak Steakhouse for the past 9 months. It's been very great. William's over there. He works there too. He knows the pain. So I've worked there for the past 9 months. I just quit recently, but I wanted to bring this same way into Oak Steakhouse. And my goal wasn't so much to talk a lot about it, but it was to serve people so I could show them the way that Jesus loves them. So just an example. So what I would do is every time, so when I would work there, I would stay late to help people. I would take people's shifts. I would close for people. When I say close for people, it's like 12 o'clock. It's like 11:30. It's late. And like you're working, if you're doing a double, you're working like 7 to 9 hours. And it's just a lot. So I would close to people, and then I would help other people with their responsibilities too. And through all of this, like I can't explain. God has been so faithful with the amount of amazing conversations that he provided. Just through serving and just how far like loving someone can go. He provided so much through all of this. And not only did I want to bring that to Oak, but I really wanted to bring that to my home. And if I'm being honest, this has probably been the hardest place for me to do that. I've been a Christian for like 3 years, so I lived at my house before I was a Christian. And this is a place where I'm comfortable and I relax and I don't serve. But if I'm being honest, this is the place where I need to serve the most. Like, I can't tell you how much that I want to show my family how much Jesus loves them just through serving them day in and day out. And that's been my thing ever since I've been through Guatemala. What I've been trying to do is saying days are for serving, nights are for sleeping and relaxing. But I'm telling you, this has been like the hardest thing for me, but this is where it needs to happen the most. And like even through all these things that you're hearing, like, oh yeah, like this guy is awesome, following Jesus, blah, blah, blah. You hear all these things that Jesus is the center of my life. Following Jesus has not been easy at all. Through the last 3 years, I've been constantly struggling with girls, pornography, laziness, where my identity is, and loneliness. And if I'm being really vulnerable tonight, this past month has been really difficult. I've seen myself turning to girls instead of turning to Jesus with things. I've been saying to myself and thinking, like, I'm leaving in 3 months. Why does it matter? I'm never going to see these people again. Like, none of this matters. Why? I just don't care. And I've done things, and I've gone to places that have made me feel very ashamed. I've had moments where I'm just asking myself, who am I? Who have I become? And I've had this lie that's been swimming around in my head that's saying, like, your old self is coming back. Like your old self from middle school that is always getting with these girls, it's coming back and it's fighting and it's gonna get out. And like I've been believing that lie. Like I've been letting that lie control me. But the reality is, that's not true. Romans 6:6 says, we know that our old self was crucified with Jesus in order that the body of sin might be brought to nothing, so that we would no longer be enslaved to sin. My old self has been crucified. It's dead. It's nothing. It has no pulse. It can't fight for anything anymore. But this is what Satan tries to do. He tries to lie to us. And he tries to tell me that my old self can come back. No, my old self has been crucified. It is gone. It's not here anymore. And I know that regardless of the mistakes I make, that Jesus is here with me. And he's not going to go anywhere. So I went to this thing called the Passion Conference in January, and this woman named Christine Kane was speaking. And when she was speaking from kind of like the end of Genesis 2 and the beginning of Genesis 3. So the beginning of Genesis 2 started with, the end of Genesis 2, I'm sorry. It ended with Adam and Eve. They were naked and they were unashamed. Unashamed. No shame at all. Nothing. This is a life that God has for us. No shame. This is how we're supposed to live. But the devil, being more crafty than any other beast in the field, gave them the fruit. And once they ate, they realized that they were naked and they were ashamed. This is what the devil is trying to do to us. He's trying to lie to us and tell us that we need to be ashamed. That's always what he's going to try to do. He's always going to make us feel shame through our mistakes and our shortcomings. But the amazing truth is that when Jesus went to the cross, he knew every sin that we were going to commit. And he did it anyway. He died anyway. He was thinking the whole time, like, I know what you're going to do. I know that you're going to go against me and that you're going to go the opposite way. But my love for you and how much I care about you is so much more important than any mistake that you can ever make. When we live in that, it's different. Because of that, I know that I am a new creation. I know that I am a son of God. No shame, no mistake, no anything can ever take me away from what Jesus did for me in that life that I can now live in. I know that he is now mine and I am his forever. And I'm standing here today coming from a place of heavy defeat and heavy failure. I know I've fallen short. I know I'm a sinner. I know I've made mistakes. I know that I deserve death. I know that I deserve the identity that my sin has. But through Jesus, I'm here today with amazing news. I'm here and I'm standing here walking in victory because my shortcomings, my mistakes are not my identity. My identity is the freedom that comes with the relationship with Jesus. My identity is in the cross, in the fact that Jesus died so that I can live freely. Now, nowhere in his plan is there shame for me. He only wants victory, and his plan is for us to walk in victory. And in freedom, my challenge for you guys is simple in theory, but it's a lot harder in practice. Do not walk in the shame that comes with your sin. Do not let the devil tell you that it defines you. I've done that long enough. And I promise you, it's not what Jesus has planned for us. Instead, walk in freedom. Do not dwell on your past and on your temptations. Instead, look to Jesus and that he sees you as his child. He sees you as chosen. He sees you as loved. He doesn't look at you and see your sin. He looks at you and he sees the cross and the fact that you're forgiven and that you're in him. He looks at you and he sees that you've already been paid for because his plans for you are freedom. So how can you live freely? Surround yourself with people who are going to hold you accountable and remind you of your freedom. Read your Bible daily. Know that Jesus is pursuing you, and when you read your Bible, you can remind yourself of this, that you are supposed to walk in freedom. And lastly, pray. Pray for him to take your shame away. Pray for him to help you stay and pursue holiness and get away from your temptations. I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with Galatians 5:13 through 14. For you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let the freedom that Jesus has given you inspire you to love others in a way that people see the cross. Through all of my failure and through all my shame, I know that Jesus is calling me into a life of freedom. And I need to remind myself of that daily. My name is James Lewis, and this is my yearbook.